Dave Aronberg is a state attorney in Florida. He has been following this case very closely and joins us live tonight. Dave, as always, appreciate you joining us. So how does a case like this proceed? Does it settle, or could the school officials be facing more consequences?
Good evening, Marnie. In the past, these types of cases have settled civilly, and that includes something close to where I am in South Florida. There's the Parkland shooter case, and in that case, the lawsuits that were allowed to continue all settled. And that's probably in the future here. Now, as far as criminal charges, I think that's extremely unlikely, even though the district attorney has said that she is keeping all options open. It's never happened where you file criminal charges against a school or school officials or something like this. I do think there will be a number of civil charges. We're seeing that already, but the standard for a civil lawsuit is much lower than a criminal charge. And so that's why I think that you will see more of it. But in the end, I don't think any of this is going to go to trial.
Legally speaking, help me understand and read between the lines here. How can the parents be charged criminally because they, according to lawyers, knew what was going on, didn't do enough to prevent it, but a school who alleged in this lawsuit knew what was going on, didn't do enough to prevent it? Isn't that a kind of gray area? Help me understand the law when it comes to something like this, how you can charge the parents, not the district, if in fact those allegations are true.
Marnie, I think the key difference is that the parents knew that their son had access to a gun. After all, they're the ones who bought him the gun. The school officials did not know he had access to the gun. They knew that he was acting out in school. They knew that he brought a decapitated bird to school. They knew he had searched for ammunition. They knew, according to this new lawsuit, that he brought ammunition to school. So there's plenty of potential civil liability here, but the difference between civil liability and criminal liability, in my opinion here, is the knowledge of the gun. The parents could have told the school when he was in the office that he had access to a gun. They didn't. The parents could have searched his backpack. They didn't. The parents could have taken their son home when the school officials asked them to. They didn't. That's why the school officials sent Crumbly back to class, and that's when the tragedy ensued.
So walk this forward for us in terms of what the judge will be determining when considering a decision. They'll lay out all the facts. They'll take in whatever information they have available. How does this move forward?
Well, civil lawsuits tend to go forward with what's called discovery, where you try to get as much information, documents, you take depositions. At some point, though, there's a settlement offer, and then insurance comes into play. A lot of times school districts are self-insured, and so they'll negotiate this. There's also sovereign immunity, where since you're a school official, you have a level of immunity from a civil lawsuit. Same thing with the school itself. And so all these things will be combining to create an incentive for both sides to settle. And I think that's what's going to happen. Now, for a criminal case, the district attorney will decide whether the actions of school officials meet that higher burden of involuntary manslaughter. Was their negligence so great that it became reckless, that their actions had a high likelihood of leading to a death or serious bodily injury? That's a tough thing to prove. And even if you make those charges, you still have to prove them beyond any reasonable doubt. By contrast, Marnie, if you file a civil case, you just have to prove it with a preponderance of the evidence. Is it more likely than not that negligence occurred? That's a much lower standard, a much lower burden, and that's why you'll see civil lawsuits here, but I doubt there'll be any criminal charges filed.
All right, well, let's talk about the parents, because they are facing criminal charges, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. How do you expect that to play out in court?
I think they're in a lot of trouble. Now, normally you don't charge parents in a situation like this. After all, in Michigan, there's not even a law that requires parents to lock up a gun. But despite that, the parents here acted so egregiously. We haven't seen this kind of set of facts before in a case like this, where the parents provided their troubled son with a gun, where they knew that he was searching for ammunition, and LOL'd him. The mother said, LOL, just don't get caught. And then when they were brought into the school administrator's office to talk about their troubled son, they refused to take him home. They refused to even search his backpack, and they didn't mention to school officials he had a gun. These parents are awful. And when their son was sitting alone in a jail cell by himself, well, what did the parents do? They fled, they hid. That's the kind of parents these people are. They deserve to go down, and I think they will meet justice in criminal court.
Dave, the last time you and I spoke, you brought up the fact that the parents hired attorneys to represent themselves, but not their son, who also is in jail facing many more charges than they are for what happened. Could that move hurt their own defense? Will prosecutors use that against them?
I don't think it can be used against them. The fact that they hired a private lawyer for themselves, but not for their son, because they'd have to provide some financial statements to qualify their son for a public defender. It is interesting and very telling, though, Marnie, that the parents decided to use what little money they had to pay for a private lawyer for their own defense, not for their sons. So it's not going to be a factor in their criminal case, but in the court of public opinion, it is damning.
It's my understanding they are being housed in the same jail. Would they have any communication with their son behind bars?
It's up to the sheriff, the local person who controls the jail. But in cases like this, no, they would not have any communication with each other. But it's a judgment call. Look, these parents are not going to win any People's Choice Awards. No one wants to do them any favors because they have acted terribly from the beginning throughout this whole process, even to the point where they fled and they were looking for vodka and orange juice because they seemed to be having a good time on the lam. They deserve what's coming to them. Their son is also unsympathetic. The way that he decapitated animals, the way that he threatened the school and then carried out his threats. But in the end, the son is 15. The parents are much older, and they should know better.
Chilling details about who knew what when leading up to this tragedy that some say may and could have been prevented. Dave, as always, appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.